everybody. This is Jennifer Palmer. I'm a healer and intuitive, and today we're going to talk about the challenging spiritual journey. The first thing I want to talk about is awakening. Awakening is the part of the spiritual journey that you start realizing you have questions that you're not getting answers to, or you have some sort of an experience where it blows your mind or it helps you to see that there's something bigger and deeper than you realized before. So that spiritual journey is an awakening. And a lot of us are walking around still asleep, trying to connect spiritually, whether it's through church or even in our spiritual practices, maybe in meditation, but we're not going deep. We're not really seeing the value of all of that. The awakening is a part of going deeper. It's helping you to see that there are questions you still have not answered for yourself. And you start looking at your beliefs, your paradigms, your ideologies, things you grew up with, things that people think around you. A lot of times we start to realize that what we used to believe is not necessarily true, or maybe it's partially true, but there's other valuable beliefs and understandings to explore. It's the idea that you no longer know it all. You no longer have all the answers. Your foundation may crumble. Everything you thought you believed in, you might suddenly start realizing that it's not all true, and I can't believe these things necessarily anymore. Or I need to figure out how I can hold on to these beliefs because what I'm seeing is not matching. So a really good example of this might be the idea of past lives. Some people are naturally in tune with that thought and think it may be true. Other people really were brought up with the idea that no, there's only one life. And I mean, who knows what the truth is? I can tell you I've experienced what I consider to be my own past lives. And it seems to make sense that there are multiple lives. And there's even evidence that in deep spiritual, even biblical teachings, that they teach about past lives. So it's interesting to me when people don't necessarily believe it or they're just not open to it. None of us can really know the whole truth, but I think we're here to explore the truth. We're here to figure it out. And I think a lot of truths have been hidden from us. So that awakening part of the spiritual journey is full of going down rabbit holes, looking for a bigger, broader understanding of our purpose here in life. What are we doing here? Why are we called towards the passions that we're called towards? What is the idea of being of service to others? And how do we love? How do we forgive? It's like all these questions, all these things. And why did those bad things happen to us, right? Why did we have all those difficulties in the past or now? Why are these things going on? Your journey is to process through those questions. And our egos like to get in the way. Our egos like certainty. They really like certainty. But that doesn't help us, right? So you have to really learn how to see when your ego's trying to get control of a situation or an idea or a belief or an emotion. Your emotion is a good key to things. When you're triggered by something, there's work to do there. Okay. And a lot of times our egos will get triggered because an old belief or an old way that we processed an understanding needs to shift. And then our egos are like, no, 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 no. This is important. This is how I've, justified my being for the last decade. Now I'm being asked to change it again. That is the spiritual journey. It's an ever unfolding of your ideas and understandings. And I'd like to say that, well, it's not that everything is correct in some way. There's a lot of untruths or a lot of lies that we've been told in our experience. But it's really important to understand that sometimes there's bits of truth in the old understanding, and then you have to parse through it and figure out, well, what am I seeing correctly? What am I misunderstanding about the truths I've been told? Or, what is true? What's not true? And is there a bigger picture understanding to formulate all of this through so that you can understand more deeply, more broadly, and more profoundly what is being shown to you? Because the answers are all around us. Now I want to talk about resistance and judgment. It's the resistance of letting go. You need to let go of your past. You need to let go of your expectations. You need to let go of all the ideas of what you thought was true. And that's really uncomfortable. You're going to feel resistance to this because we think that we are loved based on how correct we are a lot of times. And what you need to get comfortable with is that's not true. You're going to be wrong. In fact, you are wrong about a lot of things, and that's okay. It's a part of the experience. We all need to work through our understandings. And just because someone is further along in the understandings and maybe they see something differently than you, doesn't mean they're wrong. It doesn't mean necessarily you're wrong. It just might mean that the way you're processing the information is not full yet. It's not matured yet. So a lot of times in the spiritual realm, in the spiritual community, whether it's through churches or individual spiritual study, whether it's New Age or Christian or anything else, it really doesn't matter. I've seen this throughout. We want to be right. And once we feel like we're right, we feel like if we change our minds, then that means that we must have been wrong before. Don't do that. Don't resist the deeper understanding. Don't resist your change and your evolution. You are meant to evolve. So allow your spiritual wisdom and understanding to deepen. And when you go down a rabbit hole, sometimes we can get stuck in a rabbit hole and we get stuck in an ideology that may not really be serving us. Maybe we were meant to get a piece of something from there, but then we got stuck in there. And then anything else outside of that seems wrong, right? So I've seen that a lot in the spiritual community where it's, we are anti-religion or we're anti-something, and we think that we have it right because we have these other deeper understandings and we're more open-minded or whatever. But that's not necessarily true either. I have seen many people get stuck into a rabbit hole in that. And you're not becoming well-rounded enough. So figure out ways in which you can become a more well-rounded version of you with broader understanding and getting to the point where you don't need an identity with it. Okay. Even in the spiritual community, we identify as something with it. And that's it's ego. So question that, really get beyond it. Okay. Learn when you're in judgment of yourself or others. It's easy to judge because again, we think that we are lovable based on how correct we are. So if we aren't lovable enough, we aren't valuable enough, we aren't valued, we aren't going to want to change our minds about something, even when the truth is staring us in the face. When you're processing through the idea of this resistance and judgment, what's going on as you're evolving and changing and shifting, your vibration is changing. Okay. So as you grow past a situation in your life, you might suddenly realize that people are leaving your life or situations are changing. You might need a different job or a different career, or old friends you used to hang with all the time that were considered your best friends now no longer are in the same space with you. They don't resonate with you anymore. So it's time to move on. So try not to be in judgment with that. Try not to be in fear of it or resistance of it. We're all in each other's lives for a season. And sometimes it's really short, sometimes it's really long, but it's a season. None of us are together all the time forever in every lifetime. We're just not. So allow the flow of the relationships and the situations in your lives to move and change with your needs. It's really important. So when you're talking about moving through things and changing your vibration, it's really important to understand the role of healing and opening with all of this. It's one thing to study and really get into the deeper, mind of spirituality and what is this and understanding your purpose here. But living it is a different situation. It's a totally different story. When you're living this experience, suddenly you realize all the healing you have to do. There's old wounds and old judgments, old angers and resentments and grief, fear, all of that needs to be healed. It's all coming up for you because we're meant to heal it. We're not meant to live in it. We really need to heal it. Okay. And that whole process, in doing so, it's really meant to help open your heart. You can't really fully open your heart if you've got fear, anger, resentment, or grief holding you back. You might open pieces of your heart or a part of it, or, temporarily with only this person. And, but that's not the point. We are meant to learn how to love unconditionally. And I don't mean human love necessarily. I mean high level, godlike, unconditional love. Because you're going to have people that are going to do harmful things to you. You're going to have people who are going to put you in that experience of victim. You need to learn how to get past that. You need to heal your victim situations and then learn how to love again. And that is a part of the process here. But it's not necessarily loving that person for what they did, because that feels like we're allowing it to happen. Again, we're forgiving that bad thing that they did to us. What it is you coming into such a divine power state that you're coming at it from a big, high level love, where you can see that that person is struggling and suffering in some way, just as you have been. And they're taking really bad advice, or they're doing wrong things, or they're doing something that's out of alignment with their true being or their true purpose, or whatever it is. Every situation, I'm sure, is different. But if you can understand that, then you'll see that it's so important to forgive, not what they did, but forgive them as souls. Forgive yourself. Ask for forgiveness. Anything, we've all done things to people. What have you done that you have not forgiven yourself for, or maybe have not been forgiven for? And sometimes maybe we can't forgive somebody in person, or they can't forgive us in person for various different reasons. That doesn't even necessarily matter. It's really more about you and God, universe, creator, whatever it is you think this is, right? That energy within us needs to be cleared. And until we do it, it's going to run our lives. So that's why healing and opening and learning how to have a big, huge, loving presence about you, even in the face of challenges or challenging people. How can you be that energy even when someone is not exactly being kind to you, throwing judgment your way, or trying to harm you in some way? You can still love. Now, in working through this idea of unconditional love, you can't really talk about this without talking about healthy boundaries, right? And that's something that a lot of people talk about in the spiritual community and in counseling and things like that. You have to have your boundaries. And I think that's important, but I want to put this into a context. If someone is causing you harm, or is being manipulative, or even psychopathic, there's a lot of psychopaths out there. Oh no, it just seems to be a lot of harmful things happening. If you are like, I am blocking you, I'm blocking you on Facebook or whatever, or I'm blocking your phone number, you can't text me, I'm clearing you out of my life, that's a very defensive action. And it's done in anger or fear. And that's not healthy. That's still unhealthy. It's still very toxic. And I'm not saying you should never do that. Maybe at times you should. This isn't a judgment either. But what I would say is you're on that spiritual journey so that you can discover the best ways to move forward in your relationships with others. It doesn't mean continue to allow someone to abuse you or harm you in any kind of way. It just means that find the healthiest way possible to navigate through it and past it. And so let's say you had, I don't know, an abusive lover, or maybe a parent, so let's go with a parent, because it's hard with a parent. They're your parent, right? And they brought you into this world, and, we're supposed to love them. You only have one real true birth mother and one real true birth father, right? So you might have other people in your life that act as parents, and that's not what I'm talking about, but I'm talking about that one connection, right? That's probably one of the hardest things to do, is to cut off a parent. So what I want to say about that is you can learn how to create those boundaries, but in a loving kind of way. And you don't have to put up with abuse. You can navigate through that. And the best way to do it is to define what you want, not react to the victimizations and the difficulties and the frustration, the anger, the fear. Don't react to that. Get in within yourself. Define what you want. And basically what you want, let's say it's a mother, you would say, okay, I want the type of relationship that is loving, non-toxic, and supportive of each other. Right? And even if we can't be close, we can support each other in that way, like, and not in a victim rescuer kind of way, but in a way where it's just healthy and we know we care about each other. And if that's the best you can hope for in a relationship, then that's what you hold on to. You know, that it's civil, it's caring, it's okay. That's your definition. And then you would say, well, and if I can't be that way, or if my mom can't be that way, then I'm just not going to approach this. I'm not going to give it the energy. I'm not going to feed the monster, basically. I'm just going to cut that loose, because I'm not going to feed the monster. But again, it's not out of fear. It's a choice of, how do I want to experience my life? How do I want to experience my life with my mom? And it's rarely what I think it would actually be, you're gone out of my life forever. It's more, well, unless something changes, because people can always change, honestly. Unless something changes, this is what I expect. And this is like where people need to meet me. And if they can manage to meet me there, then we can have a discussion and we can really move forward in some healthier way. But if they don't, then I'm just not going to give it the energy. I'm going to heal. I'm going to put my energy within me, and I'm going to heal the trauma that's occurred. I'm going to heal the slights, the anger, the revenge I might want sometimes, whatever it is. I'm going to heal that. I'm going to focus on me and become the best version of me possible. And I wish them well. And I'm not holding any hard feelings. And if I still find difficult feelings or things that are unhealed, I'm going to then work on that. Okay, that is that spiritual journey. And that is how you truly forgive. That is how you create healthy boundaries. And if you're finding yourself doing the boundary thing out of fear or anger, start questioning that. See if there's better ways to handle it. Now, sometimes if somebody's really abusive, you might need to do that because that's all you know how to do in the moment. But what you resist, because that's a state of resistance, what you resist will persist. It's not resolving the issue. Okay? You need to go within and you need to grow from it. And then you can find the resolution to that experience. Okay? The last thing I want to talk about is the idea of layers and levels. You know, I remember when I first started going down my spiritual path and started opening up, everything was so magical. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. Angels do exist. Our guides really exist, and they are purely here to help you and love you. And yes, there are dark entities, there's negative intentions, beings out there that try to interfere, try to take you off path. That is true. It is real. I know I've heard people say it's not, but it's very real. And there's also really beautiful beings out there. And I've also heard people say that's not possible. So the truth is often in the middle somewhere. And that's where I often do find the truth. It's, yes, there's positive and negative. There's different layers. There's new awarenesses and understanding. And there's a process and everything. So I remember when I first started really healing and working on opening my heart, because I was pretty shut down for a lot of different reasons. And I realized how much resentment I was holding in my heart. So I really was working at that. But then I started realizing that I had really terrible ideas of boundaries, and I just would let people walk all over me or take control of things when I really was supposed to be in a leadership kind of position. And because I was not taking that leadership initiative, other people were doing it for me. And so I had a lot of lessons to learn around that. And then I had more lessons and then more lessons. And then it's like, just when you think you understand it, a new challenge comes up to help you understand even more deeply or to see a different aspect that needs your attention and understanding and clearing or healing in some way. So what I encourage you to do is to just realize that it's never done. You're never going to be at the end of this until the one day that we end up reuniting energetically with God, and until that is, we're continually evolving. And there's a lot more to learn and understand. And we are in this experience of Earth because it is a training, it's a school in a way. And it's not to minimize the purpose of it or what you might be going through, but we're choosing it and we're learning from it and we're growing from it, most importantly. And if you're growing, or I shouldn't say growing, if you are experiencing your life and you're closing down or shutting down in some way, you're working in kind of the opposite direction. You're going off into left field. There have been times in my spiritual journey where I've become jaded about things, or I hold on too tightly, or I feel like, well, that's just not what I was expecting, or I have to learn something. I have to realize, okay, I only had a partial realization there, and there's more to understand, and I need to be okay with that. I need to shift and pivot and understand that you're not going to ever have all the answers, and it's okay to learn more. Okay. But in those times when you're jaded or you feel like things aren't going in the way you want them to, there's a reason for that. You are growing if you choose it. You can stay jaded. You can stay in that negative space. You can take it down a negative path. That is your choice. But ultimately, the goal is to come back to that more positive realization, the positive path of things, to really understand that there's so much value in your challenges and that there's something there you're meant to get or understand. And you can't always rush through that process. Sometimes you really need to be brought to your knees a little bit. And unfortunately, that does seem to be a part of the spiritual journey. It's a part of all of our journeys, I think. But a lot of people dive into the spiritual journey thinking that it just resolves all the issues. Well, no, it doesn't. It does not. It can, but it's work. You have to practice what you're learning. That is the universe's or God's test for you. You practice what you're learning and you put it to work. That's like if you watch a video about going to the gym and lifting weights, well, that's nice and all. Okay, so maybe you understand how to do that one weightlifting procedure correctly, and you got the right angle and the right weights and you're not overdoing, you understand it maybe mentally, but until you actually go do it and put yourself to the test, you realize, oh, I can't lift that amount of weight. I have to drop the weight a little bit, or I need to adjust something, or what I thought was the right angle and everything, it shifts and changes. You just have to understand that that's really true in the spiritual realm as well. You need to adjust. You need to be open and flexible as you're working through all these things, because you're going to be challenged. And that's a good thing. It's not always fun. Sometimes it's downright terrifying, depending on what you're going through. But it is worth it. Stay open, stay focused, stay humble, work your way through those lessons, knowing there's always more to learn, there's always more to understand, and you can always love more. All right, guys, I hope that helps you in your spiritual journey. It has certainly helped me quite a bit. I love you, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.